Good morning, boys and girls. I am on page 137 and I'm going to read until 139. You guys are going to read 140 and 141 on your own. Make sure you're reading. When you answer the questions, you have to go back into the text like we do in school. Do not rush. Okay, and if you need help, I will call you and we can do it together. So make sure to take your time and do your best. Have a TV, Miss DeFeo, she blabbed. It's in their living room. Then I'd have to explain that I couldn't watch because our living room had been turned into a sleepaway camp. What camp is that? Miss DeFeo would ask, and I'd have to think fast to come up with some name. Camp Howie Wowie, I'd tell her. Then everybody would laugh. The longer I thought about it, the more worked up I got. My heart started beating faster. My mouth felt dried out, and the palms of my hands were getting clammy. Still, I couldn't tear myself away from the sleeping Howies. It was like one of those bad dreams where you would want to run, but you can't. It was like my feet were glued to the floor. I could feel the anger boiling up inside me. Any second I would burst, and it would come pouring out like lava from a volcano. Just go to bed, I kept telling myself, but my feet refused to listen to my brain. Finally, I forced myself to break away. I tore down the halls to the bathroom, shut the door behind me, and leaned against it. But when I saw the 5 toothbrushes lined up in a row, the 5 towels hanging from the towel bar, and the 5 hairbrushes, not to mention the giant economy-sized bottle of vitamins, I just lost it. I mean, totally. I grabbed the towels and threw them to the floor, one after the other. Then I trampled them like I was trying to kill some ginormic roach. Ah! This strangled sound came from deep inside me as I swept their hairbrushes off the counter. I kicked at them as if they were poisonous snakes. Ah! I turned into a raving lunatic. No, even worse, I turned into my brother at the shoe store. Then I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My face was red. My eyes were wild. I looked like some demented guy in a scary movie. In the back of my mind, I heard Cousin Howie asking, "What do we do when we get carried away?" And the natural beauties answering, "We stop and count to 10. And if that doesn't work, we count to 10 again." So I started to count. When I got to 10, I took a deep breath and then started all over again. In the mirror, I just saw my facial expression return to normal. I couldn't believe it. I'd used Cousin Howie's method to control my anger, or that it actually worked. But it did. I shook out the 5 towels and hung them up. Again, probably no one would notice since they were dark gray. There are other ways to handle this situation, I told myself. I lined up their hairbrushes. I marched down the hall to Mom and Dad's room and pushed open the door without knocking. "How do we know these people are who they say they are?" I said. Mom was stretched out on her bed, her hands over her eyes. "What?" "The Howies. They could be anybody. A week ago, we didn't even know they existed, and now they're sleeping on our living room floor." "But they have the hatchet jaw, don't they?" Mom said. "I don't see any hatchet jaw," I said. "Do you?" "Well, I thought I did." Mom looked worried for a second. Then she shook her head and waved her hand. "Oh, this is silly. Of course they're Dad's cousins. Hey, it's okay with me if you want 5 strangers sleeping on our living room floor." "They're not strangers, honey," Mom said. "They're family. No one but Cousin Howie ever called Dad Tubby." She put an arm around my shoulder. "You should get to sleep." "I'd like to know just one thing, Mom." "What's that?" "Why you and Dad had to invite them to stay here. We don't have room for 2 extra people, let alone 5. They more or less invited themselves. We were quiet for a minute. Then Mom said, "This is really important to Dad, so let's make the best of it, okay?" "Important how?" So you're going to read 140 and 141 by yourselves. But there was a very important lesson in these 3 pages. Peter got very upset and started screaming and throwing things and everything. But what did he do? Instead of continuing having a tantrum, he did something else. He counted. He counted to 10. Why do you think he counted to 10? Think about it. He did it because it helps calm him down. What happens is when you get so mad, I know a lot of us, we have all these thoughts in our head, and we're like, ah! But when you start counting, it helps you to stop thinking these thoughts and it makes you relax a little bit. And then you could use your words like Peter did. Peter was so mad, so he was throwing things and he was yelling. And counted to 10 and he calmed down. He took a breather for a second and then he went to his mom and used his words appropriately and respectfully. And he asked her, why are they here? Because he was so mad that they were here. But he never spoke to mom. And sometimes, especially as we get older, we have to use our words to speak to people. And we have to speak calmly so then we can have a good conversation. So mom explained to him. And on the next 2 pages, mom's going to tell him why it's important. And mom would never have said that if he was just throwing things. He probably would have just gotten yelled at or he would have been told to calm down, go to your room. They would have never been able to have a good talk together. So that's why it's important when we're mad, because even when Miss Dinsmore too, sometimes when you're mad, you just get so mad and you want to like yell. But that's not okay. We have to count to 10 and breathe, just like Peter did in the book. All right? So we learned a lot in this chapter. So make sure you take your time